everybody. Hi, my name is Bim, and this is my new channel that I actually started literally today. And honestly, the reason I made it is kind of weird. I mean, is it weird? I don't know. So, okay, what happened was I had to do a presentation last Tuesday, and then my lecture got cancelled, and then I had to record a video of the presentation to hand that in instead. And then I was like, what if I just make this video into a YouTube video? Because I love watching these types of analysis on YouTube, and I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun in fandom spaces lately, so I thought, why not post my little presentation on here? So yeah, that's basically my little introduction for today, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. Hello everybody, and welcome to my digital presentation. I want to start off by giving you a warning that it could be kind of long, so don't hesitate to listen to it at 2x speed. But I'm still gonna talk about everything that I wanted to talk about because I want to practice with literary analysis, and in my previous bachelor I've only done empirical research, so this is a very different approach than what I'm used to. So please, if you watch this and you have any points or notes, please tell me. I'm somebody that actually does really well when given critique, so if you have any, please tell me. Speaking of criticism, this week's turn is the post-critical turn, and as we saw in the text, criticism is also discussed. And as this is the object that I also want to analyze for my positioning paper, I thought it would be a good idea to just practice and see if I could link this turn to Rowell, who is the author of the novel Carry On, which is the first novel in a trilogy. And I want to read it through a critical and post-critical lens, because I think this book kind of starts with a critical analysis type thing and then goes into post-critical analysis, but I will get more into that later. So, criticism. These are some quotes that help me understand what it is. And the first one is, the third-person perspective of the critic analyst will always trump the self-understanding of the text or the patient. So basically, it's this idea that the critic knows the text or the thing that is analyzed better than the thing itself. And this is also linked to the fact that critics link the stories to, or the things they're analyzing, to larger socio-political realities that sometimes aren't explicitly discussed in the text themselves. And this can result, so that's a critic, so many C words. Okay, that's a criticism of criticism is that the allegorical interpretation can devolve into, a little bit too predictable reading, and, characters can become a little bit flat. And I think actually this is exactly the idea that Rowell plays with. So she takes this idea of criticism and using characters to link to larger social political realities, and she kind of breaks through them and takes them beyond into the post-criticism. And I think that's fascinating. So that's also something that I want to talk about, that, she uses revitalized critique, and she uses hopefulness and idealism and imagination in her novel to achieve this. I also want to do a little bit of my own post-criticist analysis by talking a little bit about the reception and, the larger picture. And also throughout, I want to mention that Rowell is a YA author, so she, by writing this book, she has made the topics she discusses available to literal 14-year-olds. I was reading this when I was 15 years old, and I understood what was going on, and I could relate to it, and also it really helped me think about society. And I think that's something that fits post-criticism as well, right? It's not only for the elite and the intellectuals, but it's for everybody. And I think that fits this novel. So let's talk a little bit about what Carry On is and why did Rowell write it. And it's actually linked to a different book that she wrote, which is Fangirl. So I'm going to read this quote and then talk a little bit about it. I created Simon as a narrative device in my book Fangirl. I wanted the main character of that book, Kath, to write fanfiction about a popular fantasy hero, and I didn't want to borrow somebody else's hero. I wanted someone I could have fun with, so I made up a hero of my own. I spent my whole life reading and devouring and obsessing over Chosen One stories. I realized that I had a lot to say about them, and that I had a lot to say about Simon specifically. So, this is the part where I'm talking about like the reception and going a little bit beyond the book, because Simon and Baz, which are the two characters that I'm going to be analyzing, originally appeared in her book Fangirl as the hero and the arch nemesis, and this girl, Kath, was writing fanfictions about them. And the reason that I'm mentioning this is because it shows that Rainbow Rowell is aware of fandom spaces. I mean, she has tweeted about reading fanfiction before, and, you know, by writing a book like this, she really understands how this works. And I think, at least, like, my hypothesis is that fandom spaces are often very progressive, and they critique stories a lot of the time. So back in the day when, for example, there wasn't a lot of queer representation, fandom participation really took the reins into their own hands, and just made their own representation. And I think Rainbow Rowell really probably learned from these topics and uses them also in her novel Carry On. And I think she also knows that this is her audience. Her audience is used to reading stories like this and reading critiques of archetypes and characters. I think that's why her book was so well received, because she knew exactly who her audience was, and she used that to her advantage. Alright, so that's a little bit about Fangirl. Now we're going to go into the character allegories, because what Rainbow Rowell does is she takes a trope, and I'm just choosing 2 characters, but actually I think 5 or 6 of her characters are tropes, very cliche tropes, and she makes them represent social issues in society, and this is not very explicitly explained, but there are some quotes which are really, really obvious. I'm gonna show quotes from the book. That's what we're gonna be discussing in a bit. But there's a lot of them. This book is chock full of them. So there's a lot of better ones that I could also choose. I had a lot of trouble to pick them, but okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna be discussing the characters and allegories that are associated with them, and then also how throughout the story they're changing into, something more. They're breaking through the stereotype, and this goes more into the post-criticism of, critiquing their place in society, and also helping each other to form solutions and see towards the future. Alright, so the main character, Simon Snow, is the cishet white hero capable of anything. And the social issues that are obviously linked to this is toxic masculinity, heteronormativity, and between brackets, white supremacy. I don't think race is a very big topic in this story, but it does kind of play a role, but also kind of not. So I just mentioned it just to mention it. And I'm a critic, so I obviously know a lot more about Rainbow Rowell than she does about her own book. No, I'm just kidding, but okay. And then Simon, at the end of the story, becomes a queer anti-hero grappling with trauma. Then Baz, he starts out as the evil elitist vampire arch nemesis, and I think the main social issue that he represents is classism and elitism. He also struggles with his sexuality, but he is way more open about it than Simon is, so I didn't really put that as his representing his social issue, because I don't know, I think Simon is more the poster figure for it. And then at the end of the story, Baz becomes the queer, emotional, supportive vampire boyfriend. Now, I do want to say that these are like labels, which are a little bit like flat as well. This is just for the sake of the presentation, because I'm already going to be going over time. So yeah, just bear with me. I think the situation is a little bit more nuanced, but yeah, I hope you will kind of read between the lines with me here. So at the start of the book, this is how Simon describes himself. He says, "Most magicians know who I am. Most of them know I was coming before I knew myself. There's a prophecy about me, a few prophecies actually, about a super powerful magician who will come along and fix everything. And one will come to end us, and one will bring us fall. Let the greatest power of powers reign, may save us all. The greatest mage, the chosen one, the power of powers. It still feels strange that that bloke's supposed to be me, but I can't deny it either. I mean, nobody else has power like mine. I can't always control it or direct it, but it's there." So here, Simon kind of says, I am the hero capable of anything. He does already doubt it a little bit, but when you're reading this for the first time, you're like, okay, this is the hero. He's gonna fix everything. There's a prophecy. It's like clear what he is. And it's also very clear that he's not, like there's a lot of quotes of him saying, I'm just not thinking, I'm just doing, I'm being the person that I'm supposed to be, and I'm not talking about my feelings because then it will become too much. So that's also why I put toxic masculinity and some of the social issues that he like represents. Then this is what Simon says about Baz. So he says, Baz and his side, all of the old rich families, they don't believe that anyone can understand magic the way that they do. They think they're the only ones who can be trusted with it. And then 100 pages in, he says, and he's talking to his best friend, and he also has a girlfriend. Simon has a girlfriend. And the girlfriend and Baz had like a little moment, so they're talking about that. And he says, "You can see that? How can you see that? My girlfriend falling in love with my sworn enemy. My girlfriend, who's good, falling in love with my enemy, who's completely evil." So here we can see again Baz being portrayed as the evil elitist arch nemesis, and Simon being the cishet hero. And at one point, him and his girlfriend break up, and the reason they're breaking up is because Simon is like, but we're supposed to be together. Like, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm like the cishet white hero. Like, I'm supposed to have a girlfriend and we're supposed to be married. Like, I don't understand. And then the girlfriend is like, okay, but that's not a good enough reason to be together. So yeah, again, heteronormativity, very big thing. And Baz being, classist and elitist, is also like one of the tropes. Then halfway through this story, a lot has happened in between the last quote and now, but I have too many quotes, so I really had to pick the most important ones. This is the part where Simon and Baz have been working together for a while, and this is kind of like the breakthrough. Baz has already mentioned that he is hopelessly in love with Simon, and he's like kind of expecting Simon to kill him, but then he doesn't want him to because he's in love with him, but he also kind of wants him to, and he has like all these weird intense thoughts about it. And there's this part where Baz is like in a funk, and Simon gets him out of it by kissing him, and this is what happens. This is what Simon thinks. He thinks Baz's mouth is colder than Agatha's because he's a boy, I think, and then no, because he's a monster. So here he's really thinking like, I am, I'm hetero, I'm the hero, like I can't be kissing a boy who was also a monster, like what is happening? And then right afterwards he really changes his tone. He says, he's not a monster, he's just a villain. He's not a villain, he's just a boy. I'm kissing a boy. I'm kissing Baz. He's so cold and the world is so hot. So this is the part where he's becoming like the anti-hero, right? Like he's kissing a villain, he's being intimate with a villain. Like that's not something that a hero is supposed to do. And on top of that, he's kissing a boy, so he's like queer ? Like I don't know, he's having an emotional crisis. But I think it's really interesting how just in like a few sentences, Rowell really just says, okay, this is how you can shift your narrative and how you can like go into this post-criticism like idea of like, okay, just go beyond it. And yeah, Baz kind of does the same thing. So he says right after, I'm going to die kissing Simon Snow. Aleister Crowley, I'm living a charmed life. So, of course, it's still kind of, you know, like gray and gloomy. But in the story, you kind of know that's also his humor. So we kind of know he's happy about it. But that's like context. All right, so here, yeah, their tropes really change. And then a bit further on, they're having a conversation about how Simon really looks like the evil entity they're supposed to be fighting. So there's like this Voldemort type character. He doesn't look like Voldemort at all, but just like to have the, you know, the link. And this is the conversation they have. So Baz keeps laughing, but he's also giving me a sneering grin. I'm laughing because you're the chosen one, he says giddily, but you're also the greatest threat to magic. You're a bad guy. Baz, I swear, that wasn't me. Looks like you, sounds like you, tosses that infernal red ball in the air like you. He holds me tighter. I think I'd know if I were the insidious humdrum, I say. I wouldn't give you that much credit, Simon. You're exceedingly thick and criminally good looking. Have I mentioned that? No. Alright, so here we go further into, you know, Simon being solidified as the anti-hero and Baz becoming more emotionally supportive and kind of realizing that, you know, he needs to help Simon work through this and accept it. And I think it's really interesting that he says, you're a bad guy, but then 2 sentences later, he holds him tighter. So he's kind of joking about it, giving him a little bit of emotional, or like, he's lightening the mood because he's joking, but he also gives him emotional support. So he isn't the evil arch nemesis anymore. He's like suddenly a feeling human being. All right, and then we're nearing the end of the story. So this is after the whole climax has happened and Simon has lost his powers. So he's not really anything anymore. And this is a conversation again between Baz and Simon. Baz says, look at me. I don't want to have to say this all the time. It's the sort of thing that's supposed to go poetically unsaid. He meets my eyes. You're still Simon Snow. You're still the hero of this story. This isn't a story. Everything is a story, and you are the hero. You sacrificed everything for me. He looks abashed, ashamed. I didn't do it for you exactly. Fine, for me and the rest of the magical world. I was just cleaning up my own mess, Baz. Like, no one would call you a hero for cleaning up your own vomit. It was brave. It was brave and selfless and clever. That's who you are, Simon, and I'm not gonna get bored with you. So again, another quote that perfectly shows how Baz says, I'm gonna support you and I love you and, you know, like, I'm not your arch nemesis anymore and I'm here for you even if you don't think you're the hero of the story, you're like the hero of my story, which is kind of cliche, but it's also really sweet. But again, like I said, rowell is playing with cliches because she's used to fandom spaces which use tropes and cliches a lot, so they know exactly where to put these characters into categories, and she's breaking through those categories in a way that, you know, her audience understands. And then in the end, this is part of the epilogue, we learn that Simon is not only the anti-hero, but he's also grappling with trauma, and he's actually, you know, getting therapy because he needs it. And I think this is the part where, you know, the idealism and the hopefulness comes in. You know, rowell doesn't only say, okay, you know, you can, like, criticize your own stance in society, and you can, like, criticize the social issues, but she also kind of offers a solution, and yeah, I think that's why she takes it beyond criticism. So Simon says, there's just sweat and panic and my heart racing ahead of me, and my doctor in Chicago says that's all normal for someone like me. A fallen supervillain, I'll say, and she'll smile from a professional distance, a trauma victim. So this also normalizes, you know, therapy for a lot of people. Like, she published this first novel in 2015, and mental health is something that she discusses further in her second and third novel, and how Simon and Baz learn to support each other through this as well. And I remember reading this as a 15-year-old and really being like, oh, wait, okay, so the hero of the story who's, like, supposed to be very mentally strong and supposed to be able to tackle anything, isn't the hero anymore, and he's still loved and he needs professional help, but that's okay, and his best friends and his boyfriends are supporting him. I think it's beautiful. I don't have any other words for it. And then we go into the last quote. So this is a conversation between Simon and Baz, and then Penny, who is Simon's best friend, who is, again, a whole stereotype, and she does the same thing with all of her characters, but okay, I won't get into it right now. I'll just read the quote. So, Penny says, "Is it too early for tea? There's biscuits in one of these boxes. I could magic them up for us." Baz looks up from his phone. "The chosen one's making us tea the normal way," he says. "It's occupational therapy." "I already know how to make tea," I say, "and I wish you'd stop calling me that." "You really were the chosen one," Penny says. "You were chosen to end the world of mages. Just because you failed doesn't mean you weren't chosen." "The whole prophecy is bollocks," I say, "and one will come to end us, and one will bring his fall. Did I also bring my own fall?" "No," Baz says. "That was me, obviously." "How did you bring my fall? I stopped the humdrum myself." Baz looks back at his phone, bored. "Fell in love, didn't you?" Penny groans, and Baz starts laughing, trying not to crack a smile. So, this is like one of the last paragraphs, and I think, my tropes becoming more than a tropes thing, really, everything is in this quote. So, again, to reiterate, Simon goes from being the cishet white hero capable of anything, and he becomes the queer anti-hero grappling with trauma. And Baz goes from the evil elitist vampire arch-nemesis to becoming the queer, emotionally supportive boyfriend. And I didn't really talk about his elitism and classism too much, but I think he does break through those stereotypes. But yeah, I haven't shown you the quotes to support it, so I'm sorry for that. But I'm already talking for 20 minutes, so I'm gonna end my presentation here. I hope you liked it. If you have any thoughts about how I did this reading, please send them to me. I had a lot of fun doing it, but I have, again, no idea if I'm doing it right. So any critique or any validation, please react. I will be happy with anything. Any other thoughts on the prose critical turn? Of course, we can maybe have a little bit of a discussion. That would be lovely as well. And I did a little different outro because I go on to talk about some uni stuff, which y'all don't need to know. But yeah, if you listen to this on YouTube, thank you so much. I hope you like my presentation. I feel like I have so much more to say about these novels, about Agatha and Penny, and like the whole book is just amazing, and that's like just the first book, so like not even the second and third novel. I've like not even talked about it. So yeah, maybe that will be something I will do in the future. And I feel like I have so much more to say. Like I could literally talk about this for hours and hours. But like I said, this presentation was supposed to be like 10 to 15 minutes, and I already went over time. So that's all that I have for you today. But yeah, I hope you liked it. If you want, you can check out some of my other art. I post mostly stuff on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I think I'm like most active on Twitter, actually. So yeah, thank you for watching, and see you next time.